It's not about fiery speeches. It's not necessarily the stuff that you would make movies out of. But in talking to Connor McDavid's teammates about the captain's leadership style, it's all rooted in fantastic performance first and foremost, but also a more subtle touch. Quiet conversations between individuals behind the scenes. McDavid helping fuel belief in each one of his teammates that this team can get to where it wants to go. And there's what he does on the ice, which the last 2 games has been nothing short of remarkable. His teammates showing a lot of appreciation for the all-around performance of their captain.
Obviously a hell of a player, but, the way that he does lead us, the way, just for me personally, he gives me a ton of confidence no matter what happens in the game, whether I let in 5, whether I get a shutout. He's always in my corner. He's always patting me on the back and telling me that he believes in me.
He's always in the middle of something. He's always around. He's always talking, but he's not yelling and screaming. He's there. And I've played with some guys that are the exact same way. And Scott Niedermayer was the exact same way. He just let us talking, on the ice and the way he played. And that's how most of the guys are. And when they can lead like that.
You spend your life, working to get into a position like this. You think that when you're here, there's going to be some magic feeling or magic, I don't know. You don't know what to expect. To be honest, it's all been pretty normal.
Alongside Jamie McLennan and Darren Dreger, perhaps lost among all those amazing offensive highlights from Connor McDavid from the last game, were some pretty impressive defensive efforts as well, Dregs. It's an all-around game right now that is propelling this team back into this series, and all the talk is about 97.
Yeah, we have a front row seat, right? We're fortunate enough to watch Connor McDavid and the Edmonton Oilers and the Florida Panthers, turn this into a heck of a series. But, historically, you want to make comparisons, don't you? And I've had opportunity to speak with some legendary coaches who look at the game of McDavid in the Stanley Cup Final, and they're making lofty comparisons, thinking of Wayne Gretzky. Statistically, that's a fair comparison. Thinking of Mario Lemieux and the big game moments that Mario used to grab hold of, during his heyday in the National Hockey League. But Scott Niedermayer, a Hall of Fame defenseman, made a point to me about the combination, the balance of will and skill. And there are so many elite level players in the National Hockey League who have both of those things, but bringing them together on the grandest stage, which is the Stanley Cup Final, the way McDavid has, well, that's what makes him special. And it feels like he's got more to give.
Absolutely. My phone has been blowing up in the last couple days as well. Players throughout the league that aren't even playing, just all they're writing is 97. Yeah. All eyes are on Connor McDavid, and he has dragged his team right back into the series and got some momentum going. But ultimately, what he's been doing, you can tell that it's throughout the league everybody's talking about. Sure. There's a massive buzz. Let's see if he continues to follow that up.
So, after Game 4 when the Oilers won, a lot of the narrative out there was, if they win in Florida, this is going to a Game 7. A lot of people sort of had that sense that bringing this series back to Edmonton, it would be a no-brainer. A bit of a trap game here, though, Noodles, in that, it's going to be a tall task for the Oilers. You look at the play that Florida carried in the last game. They're here for a reason. Anybody looking past Game 6 is going to be sorely mistaken.
I think you used the right verbiage there. Trap game. You cannot look forward to a Game 7 if you're the Edmonton Oilers, because the Florida Panthers did not want to get on that plane. They wanted to win the Stanley Cup in their building. Last situation, now they want to get and win a Stanley Cup in Edmonton. It doesn't matter where they win. So the focus was to get on the plane. Reluctantly, they didn't want to do that, but they're here. They're going to try and win the Stanley Cup in Edmonton. The Oilers cannot look past it. They need an unbelievable effort in Game 6.
Look, I believe in Florida. I really do, because they're that deep, and they've had a wonderful season to this point. But I'm also willing to buy a ticket on the momentum train, and that's what the Edmonton Oilers have going right now. In Game 4 and 5, we finally saw the speed of the Oilers overtake the Florida Panthers. So what sort of adjustments are going to be made going into Game 6 by Paul Maurice and the coaching staff? And look, I just talked about McDavid and will and skill. Well, the Florida Panthers have some pretty significant pieces there who can play that level of game. They're going to have to find it. I think it's going to be hard based on the momentum the Oilers have.
Potentially some lineup tweaks here and there for the Florida Panthers, Jamie, but what have you made of the style of play, the way the Oilers have adjusted, and as Dregs talks to, maybe some counter punches and some adjustments that Paul Maurice might be looking at?
Well, the counter punch has to be the forecheck for the Florida Panthers, because in the first 3 games, they were getting to the D of the Edmonton Oilers, forcing some turnovers, forcing some chances against, really, that Stuart Skinner would have to answer for. They got away from that in games 5 and 4 and 5, and they've got to find a way in game 6 to get that forecheck again, really be physical and force the Edmonton Oilers to maybe into some unforced errors where they can capitalize on.
Where the Oiler lineup is concerned, it was all hands on deck on their off-day practice. Everybody on the ice, and that includes Evander Kane, who looks to be pushing hard, trying to make for a case for himself to draw back into the Stanley Cup Final. Chris Knobloch saying they have options heading into Game 6.